two groups of friends had planned to spend the weekend at a beautiful secluded beach, but to reach this beach, they needed to cross a long trail through the virgin forest. The day was beautiful, with a blue sky that, in contrast with the trees, almost looked like a painting. What no one expected was that their friends would end up getting lost in the woods, let alone what was about to happen to them. There was something magical about that sunny spring day when Julia and Daniel, two strangers destined to meet, found themselves lost in the winding trails of lush nature. Julia, a young woman with a passion for adventure, decided to embark on a challenging hike with her group of friends, camping at a paradisiacal beach, while Daniel, a fearless and curious young man, was heading to the same beach with his friends, but via a different trail. Little did they know that their stories were about to intersect. Julia, who had just turned 18, was a spirited young woman with golden hair that danced in the wind and eyes that sparkled with the light of discovery. She wore comfortable clothes for the hike, yet they also accentuated her beautiful figure sculpted by countless walks in nature, further highlighting her natural beauty. Her laughter was contagious, and her zest for life illuminated the landscape around her. Daniel, on the other hand, exuded an aura of mystery and quiet confidence. His deep brown eyes reflected an insatiable curiosity, while his smile suggested wisdom beyond his years. Wearing practical hiking clothes, he radiated a gentle masculinity, with broad shoulders and a chest naturally sculpted by his favorite sport, surfing. With a relaxed attitude, he was much loved by his friends and captivated people wherever he went. At a certain point, Julia and Daniel got distracted taking photos of nature and ended up falling behind their groups. And it was there that a misinterpreted sign and a treacherous path led Julia and Daniel to separate from their friends, plunging them into a verdant and silent labyrinth. The sounds of birds singing and leaves rustling in the wind became the backdrop for an unexpected encounter. The meeting took place in a clearing, where both stopped to assess their maps and realized they were completely off course. Julia nervously chuckled, as she found herself in the middle of the woods alone with a stranger. Daniel smiled, sharing the feeling of bewilderment. He noticed that Julia was apprehensive about the situation and began to talk to her to ease the tension she was showing. He introduced himself and said he had also lost track of his group, assuring her not to worry, as he would help her find the main trail and reunite with her friends. Daniel's words somehow brought comfort and reassurance to Julia. "Lost together, I guess we're problem buddies now," Julia joked, looking at the map as if that would solve the situation. "Well, at least we're lost in good company," Daniel chuckled, agreeing. Julia laughed timidly, finding Daniel very handsome, and feeling like it was truly a twist of fate for him to be lost there, at that location, and at that hour. From that moment on, the trail that had started as a challenge turned into an unexpected journey of connection and romance. The two then joined forces to find their way back, exploring together the wonders of the trail that surrounded them. As they progressed, conversations flowed more easily, to the point where they seemed like longtime friends. And this made the situation much more tranquil, as it diverted attention from the problem, keeping both calmer and more confident. The sun began to set when they finally spotted the main trail. What could have been a day of setbacks turned into an unforgettable experience. However, something had changed between Julia and Daniel, a spark of attraction that couldn't be ignored. When they finally reached the main trail, they found some of their friends who had come back to look for them. The two then bid farewell on the trail. Julia felt a tightness in her chest. "It was great sharing this adventure with you, Daniel. Who would have thought getting lost could be so much fun?" Daniel smiled, holding her gaze. "I agree, Julia. Who knows, maybe the trails of life have more surprises in store for us." And wasn't he right? When they reached the beach, they saw that their groups had set up camp next to each other, allowing them to spend more time together. That night, both lay in their respective campsites with thoughts about the day they had shared. A sense of anticipation hung in the air, as if destiny had begun a story that was far from being finished. That thought kept them from sleeping. Julia then stepped out of the tent to gaze at the stars, and to her surprise, she found Daniel sitting by the dying embers of the campfire. The night was beautiful, with a moon so bright that its reflection on the sea heralded the birth of true love. Julia sat next to Daniel and asked why he was there alone. "I couldn't sleep. I couldn't stop thinking about you and the moments we shared. So, I came here hoping to see you again," replied Daniel. Upon hearing that, Julia's heart raced, as the feeling was mutual, and deep down she had also stepped out of the tent hoping to find him. She smiled sweetly, and they began to talk, gradually growing closer. Daniel then invited her to walk on the beach under the moonlight amidst the starlight. Julia promptly accepted the invitation, and off they went, with the sky as their witness. As they walked, their arms lightly brushed against each other, causing an indescribable shiver. Gradually, their hands were also brushing against each other. At this moment their voices began to quiver, and words were becoming difficult to come by. Their hearts seemed like they were about to burst from how fast they were beating, and they could no longer disguise their feelings. Their hands finally intertwined. They stopped by the seashore, with the moon's reflection touching their feet. They gazed deeply into each other's eyes and finally kissed. That kiss was like a submerged volcano, bringing forth all those feelings they were trying to keep to themselves, and it ended up becoming the beginning of a magical and unforgettable night. The next day, the two were inseparable, and their friends, upon realizing this, were shocked at how destiny brought the two together. The days that followed brought exchanged messages, occasional calls, and a growing desire to meet again. Julia and Daniel began to plan new adventures together, exploring not only trails in nature but also the paths of the heart. As their relationship deepened, they discovered that the connection they shared on life's trails was more than just a coincidence. It was as if the universe had conspired to unite them that day, lost and found at the same time. Julia and Daniel learned that true love is not just a romantic journey but a journey of self-discovery and growth together. Life's trails are not always easy, but when walked hand in hand, they become more meaningful. Over time, the young couple discovered that the magic of the first encounter lost in the trails turned into a lasting love story. Julia and Daniel learned that true beauty lies not only in the adventure of the unknown but in building a path together, overcoming challenges, celebrating achievements, and finding joy in the small moments life offers. And so, the love between Julia and Daniel continued to flourish, like the wildflowers that adorn the trails where they first met. United by chance, guided by the heart, and strengthened by the journey, they realized that life's trails were meant to be explored together, and that every step, no matter how challenging, was an integral part of the beautiful path they had built. If you like the story, I'm sure that one of the videos that is here on the screen will move you too. But before you click, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our next videos. A big hug and see you in the next story.